Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through the sources, the news, the history, and the notes to bring you the essential knowledge and insights you need to truly understand a topic.
And today we're undertaking, well, quite a profound exploration, really, almost generational.
Yeah.
We're tracing the life and the defining career arc of Julian McMahon, a man whose existence was marked by these massive, kind of unexpected transitions.
Right, from growing up in like a political palace in Australia.
Exactly, to becoming, arguably the ultimate on-screen villain in Hollywood. It's quite the journey.
And this deep dive, it feels necessary because of the recent news. Julian McMahon, the Australian-American actor, he passed away recently, July 2nd, 2025. He was only 56.
Yeah, such a loss. And our sources for this, they're incredibly rich. They allow us to go, I think, far beyond just a standard biography.
How so?
Well, we can detail his really unique heritage, that pivotal shift he made from the fashion world into acting, and then dive into those complex, often morally ambiguous roles that, really secured his place as a dramatic powerhouse.
Okay, so what's the first thing that really jumps out? What immediately defines his story?
I think it's the sheer unlikelihood of his starting point. I mean, when you talk about biographical details that demand attention,
Yeah.
the fact that he was the only son of Sir William McMahon, a former Prime Minister of Australia, that's just impossible to overlook.
Right. That's not your typical Hollywood backstory.
Not at all. That high political pedigree, it created this whole world of expectation and scrutiny that most actors just never encounter. It really sets the stage for a life that was kind of constantly negotiating between maybe duty and desire.
Absolutely. And that's our mission today, isn't it? To really analyze that negotiation. We need to unpack that privileged but definitely complicated upbringing in Sydney.
Understand the critical pivot he made to U.S. television.
Explore the true cultural impact of roles like Dr. Christian Troy or Cole Turner in Charmed.
And examine why he consistently seemed to gravitate toward characters defined by their complexity, their darkness even.
Yeah. We're tracing that thread basically from a huge political family name.
To the ultimate dramatic antihero.
Okay, so how are we structuring this?
Well, I think we should start by grounding ourselves in the environment of his Sydney years. The wealth, the influence, the formal structure of his childhood.
Makes sense.
Then we'll move into the rapid career pivot he engineered. We need to analyze the critical struggles and breakthroughs in his early acting career.
Got it.
After that, we'll dive into what you might call the golden era of his career, specifically Nip Tuck and his foray into the superhero world.
Right, Dr. Doom.
Exactly. Before concluding with his later procedural work and the intricacies of his dual identity, that Australian-American balance.
Okay, let's start right at the very beginning then, because the backdrop to his childhood is, well, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
It really is. Julian Dana William McMahon, born in Sydney, July 27, 1968.
And when he was just 2 years old, his father, William McMahon, reaches the absolute apex of Australian politics, becomes the 20th Prime Minister in March 1971.
Yeah, and to fully appreciate this, you really have to contextualize Sir William McMahon. He was born way back in 1908.
Wow, okay.
Which means he was already 63 when he took the highest office.
Yeah.
This wasn't just, a political figure. This was a man whose entire worldview, his parenting style probably, was rooted in a vastly different, much more formal post-war Australia.
That's a huge age gap.
Huge.
Yeah.
And this distinction, as we'll probably see, it likely created a deep sort of structural generational gap between father and son from the get-go.
And the sources, they paint a really vivid picture of the environment he grew up in, right?
Yeah.
His parents were this power couple, but defined by two different powerful spheres.
Totally. His father, the political titan, but his mother, Sonia Nay Hopkins, was arguably just as influential, but in the social and cultural landscape.
How so?
Well, she was described as an heiress, a really prominent socialite and a genuine fashion icon. Her choices, apparently, often dominated Australian news cycles.
So the sheer visibility of their family life must have been immense. Constant spotlight.
Intense.
Yeah.
Absolutely intense. And the public focus was so strong, the private life seemingly had to conform to the demands of politics.
Yeah.
And the source material highlights this quite unique arrangement during his father's time as Prime Minister in Canberra.
Who was that?
Sonia McMahon, prioritizing her role alongside her husband, apparently made the decision to leave their 3 children, Julian and his 2 sisters, in the care of a full-time nanny back in Sydney.
Wow. Okay, that detail that's a crucial nugget, isn't it?
I think so.
It gives us a real sense of maybe the emotional complexity of that upbringing. It was privileged, sure, steeped in wealth and high society.
Definitely.
but perhaps emotionally distant, or just very rigidly structured. The kids were raised in a world of protocol, not necessarily constant parental presence, because it was dictated by the demands of national leadership.
And you have to think this environment fed directly into the man he became. Maybe specifically his attraction later in life to those damaged characters we mentioned.
Oh, so?
Well, he himself reflected on that profound generational gap with his father. He noted that his father, born in 1908, must have navigated, and I'm quoting loosely here, a strange misunderstanding of how you were parented in 1908 versus how you parent in 1972. It would have been so conflicting.
That really speaks volumes.
It does. It
Yeah.
speaks to the formality, the distance, maybe the high, unsaid expectations that must have just dominated his earliest years.
And that pressure cooker of expectation, it clearly followed him straight into his education. He attended the exclusive, private, boys-only Sydney Grammar School.
Which was a direct reflection of the family tradition, right? His father had also attended. Everything seemed to be pointing toward a continuation of the family legacy law, finance, maybe politics.
Yeah, the expected path.
Yet, his academic career almost immediately suggests a young man searching for an exit ramp.
Really?
Yeah, he briefly studied law at the University of Sydney. That's the traditional path for the elite. But then he quickly shifted gears to economics at the University of Wollongong.
Different focus.
Very different disciplines. It indicates he was kind of trying on different traditional suits, maybe finding none of them fit, or perhaps none of them really spoke to his internal needs. It shows a fundamental restlessness pretty early on.
And here's where the narrative takes that really sharp turn. A definitive break from the McMahon expectations.
Right. At the young age of 17, he completely abandoned his academic pursuits.
Just walked away.
Walked away. And pivoted straight into the international modeling circuit. And this wasn't just dipping his toe in, he dove straight into the deep end, traveling to all the major fashion hubs. Los Angeles, New York, Milan, Rome, Paris.
That's a huge change. It feels almost like a psychological rejection of that political and formal life he grew up in.
Doesn't it? He swapped the rigid structure of Sydney grammar and the expectations of law school for the complete fluidity, the aesthetic focus, the travel inherent in high fashion.
It's the first major indicator he was going to forge his own path, one focused on image and performance, entirely outside the shadow of his father's legacy. Did the sources give any indication, though, whether his father's legacy ever helped him professionally during this pivot? Or was it only a burden, do you think?
That's a really good question. In the context of the modeling world itself, the political connection was probably generally irrelevant, or maybe even a little detrimental, adding a layer of stiffness to a world craving rebellious beauty.
Right, not really the vibe.
Not really. However, the wealth and the social connections, they certainly provided that foundation of privilege. The ability to travel internationally, to move comfortably in high circles, and crucially, the freedom to just abandon university studies without immediate financial pressure.
So the benefit was more indirect. It provided the runway, maybe, but the name itself didn't open the doors to the modeling agencies.
That seems to be the case. The name recognition might have been there, but not necessarily in a helpful way for that specific industry.
And then, ironically, the very moment that forced him to kind of reconnect with his political roots was the catalyst for his acting career.
It's such a crucial connection in the story, isn't it? In 1988, he's working overseas. His father dies. He has to return to Australia for the funeral.
Unnecessary return to that Sydney world he'd essentially left behind.
Exactly. And while he was home, he filmed several prominent Levi's commercials, just sort of capitalizing on his modeling profile, maybe.
Okay.
And this visibility, specifically from those commercials, directly led to his very first major acting gig on that hugely successful Australian soap opera, Home and Away.
So, a moment of profound personal closure, attending his father's funeral, unintentionally opens the door to his professional destiny. He walks out of modeling, pauses briefly back in the political world, and lands straight on a soap opera set in Summer Bay.
The contrast couldn't be sharper, really. From Parliament House lineage to beachside drama.
Yeah.
And that Australian launchpad, it was rapid, but it seems like it was designed to be temporary from his perspective. After the Levi's visibility, McMahon immediately made his debut in a short-lived daytime soap called The Power of the Passion. He played a character named Kane Edmonds. It was brief, but it was his entry ticket into acting.
And that quickly led to the role that really defined his initial fame back in Australia. playing Benito Benluccini, who was a soldier on Home and Away. He joined that show in 1990.
And Home and Away was, it was a massive cultural institution in Australia and the UK back then. It instantly granted him major recognition, household name stuff.
But his time there was, quote, short, wasn't it?
Very short. He joined in 1990 and chose not to renew his contract. He left with the actors playing his on-screen wife, Carly Lucchini, in late 1991.
So just over a year, really.
Yeah. And the sources make it pretty clear. His ambition lay across the Pacific. He was focused squarely on the much larger or globally dominant U.S. market.
But that transition, it wasn't exactly the smooth ascent you might expect, right? Especially for a handsome, well-connected son of a former prime minister.
No, far from it. And this is a really vital moment of struggle that truly illustrates the difference between, say, social pedigree and professional reality in Hollywood.
How so?
The sources detail, pretty expensively actually, the difficulty he faced in the early 1990s just trying to secure a U.S. work permit, the green card lottery thing that actors often face.
Right, the practicalities.
Exactly. This bureaucratic hurdle apparently caused him to miss out on multiple significant potential roles. This period of waiting and frustration, it's often overlooked, but it shows that in Hollywood, talent and even name recognition often play second fiddle to immigration law.
I think we need to linger on that for a second, because for a listener, it's maybe easy to assume actors just arrive and start auditioning. What would that struggle have actually felt like? Did the sources suggest any specific roles he might have missed out on?
The sources don't name specific missed roles, unfortunately, but they do emphasize the sheer anxiety of it. Imagine being a young, ambitious actor in L.A., maybe getting positive feedback from casting directors, knowing a job could be there, but being legally unable to actually accept the role. It must be paralyzing.
Absolutely.
And this frustration likely fueled his early drive. So when he finally got his breakthrough, it wasn't through some red carpet invitation. It was through the traditional kind of grinding path of U.S. soap opera work.
And that big break finally arrived in 1993 with the U.S. soap opera Another World. He was cast as Ian Rain.
Yeah.
And the story of his first scene, it's such a perfect example of immediate immersion into those American daytime drama tropes, isn't it?
It absolutely is. He remembered the experience as pretty magical, which is nice, but the scenario itself was pure, immediate cheese.
Go on.
His very first shot, filmed in New York at the fictional Corey Mansion, required him to emerge from a swimming pool wearing only a Speedo.
Oh my goodness. From the tailored suits of Sydney society.
Up to a Speedo emerging from a pool in front of a camera crew in New York. It's one massive televised leap. It's the kind of high-stakes, low-subtlety moment that forces an actor to shed all previous inhibitions and just commit fully to the dramatic world they're in.
Okay, so that experience served its purpose, got him in the door. But the real career-defining shift, that came when he moved into American primetime dramas in the late 90s.
That's right.
And this is where the outline of his preferred character type really started to emerge, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. He moved from the hyper-dramatic world of soap to the cooler, maybe more nuanced environment of procedural drama with Profiler.
Right, I remember that show.
He gained significant recognition as Detective John Grant. It was a role he held from 1996 to 2000. And Detective Grant was complex. He was an investigative figure who brought a real intensity and a slight edge to his work. He wasn't just a straightforward hero cop.
Okay, so laying the groundwork.
Exactly. And then almost immediately after Profiler finished, he landed a role that elevated him to true cultural icon status, certainly for a massive demographic. Cole Turner in the supernatural drama Charmed.
Oh yeah, Charmed. Big deal.
A huge deal. He joined the show in 2000 and remained a fixture until 2003, with a notable return later in season 7 as well.
And Cole Turner is just a fascinating study in the precise type of role McMahon seemed to excel at, right?
Absolutely. Cole was initially introduced as a prosecuting attorney, a figure of traditional law and order, very respectable. But his true nature was Balthazar, this incredibly powerful half-demon sent to destroy the Halliwell sisters, the main characters.
So ultimate conflict.
The ultimate internal conflict. This character was defined by it, a demon trying to love a witch, constantly oscillating between good and pure evil. It was high drama.
And that level of internal, supernatural conflict, it perfectly embodies that damaged character niche he was drawn to, doesn't it?
Precisely. The core insight into his role preference, which we really have to keep coming back to, is that he explicitly sought out the villains or damaged characters. Cole Turner was the absolute archetype of this preference.
Because he wasn't just a good guy who turns bad.
No, he was fundamentally broken from the start, struggling with this inherent dual identity. And this allowed McMahon to use his natural charisma, his leading man looks, to both mask and enhance a deep sense of danger and vulnerability underneath.
That's a tricky balance.
Very. The role required him to deliver high melodrama, action sequences, and genuine emotional suffering, often all at the same time.
So it seems like Profiler maybe allowed him to practice the intensity,
Yeah,
and Charmed gave him the license to really practice that complex duality.
I think that's a great way to put it. Both roles were absolutely essential preparation for the absolute game changer that came next for him.
He mastered being that magnetic character that the audience, both distrusted but also desperately rooted for sometimes.
Yes, that ability to embody complex ambiguity really set the stage for his most globally recognized work, where he truly maximized his capacity to play the charming sociopath.
Okay, so if Julian McMahon's career was a series of steps, the Nip Tuck, that
Yeah.
was the rocket launch, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Premiering in 2003, running for 7 seasons until 2010. This show was a genuine cultural phenomenon, and the role of Dr. Christian Troy brought him career-defining serious recognition.
Dr. Christian Troy, I mean, what a character. It almost feels like the role he was born to play.
Doesn't it? He was the quintessential anti-hero of that early 21st century era. Narcissistic, hedonistic, brilliant, yes, but constantly wrestling with this moral vacuum created by his profession as a plastic surgeon in Miami.
And McMahon's ability to inject those moments of profound, kind of unexpected vulnerability into this outwardly callous character, that's what earned him the critical praise, right?
Absolutely. That was the key. The show itself was totally groundbreaking for basic cable at the time. It pushed boundaries constantly on sexuality, on ethics, on, frankly, surgical gore.
Oh, yeah, it was intense.
Very. It was a sharp commentary on society's obsession with superficiality, with perfection.
So how did his performance stand out in such a, well, provocative landscape?
McMahon was the linchpin. He was the show's contradictions embodied. Christian Troy was deeply flawed, a womanizer, a commitment phobe, often incredibly self-destructive. Yet his charm, his swagger, made him irresistible to viewers. You couldn't look away. This role was just pure dramatic gold for him.
And it paid off immediately in terms of industry recognition.
Instantly. In 2004, he received that Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor in a television drama series. And that wasn't a minor award. That placed him firmly among the elite dramatic actors working on television at that time.
And the awards attention didn't stop there, did it?
No, he garnered nominations across the spectrum. Satellite Awards, Gold Derby Awards, even Saturn Awards, the latter, recognizing his ability to kind of transcend genre boundaries, bringing this cinematic quality to his television work.
He wasn't just a television star anymore. He was a critically acclaimed dramatic force.
Precisely. And while he was balancing the incredibly rigorous schedule of being the lead in a 7-season series.
Which is demanding enough.
Right. He was simultaneously conquering the big screen by entering the burgeoning world of the superhero franchise, which was a true mark of celebrity status in the 2000s.
Yes. He took on the iconic Marvel Comics villain, Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom.
In the Fantastic Four duology. Started in 2005, reprised the role in the 2007 sequel, Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer.
And this casting choice, it just reinforces that narrative thread we've been following, doesn't it?
Completely. When Hollywood needed a villain who was, physically attractive, highly intelligent, menacing, and capable of both corporate and literal world domination.
McMahon was their guy.
He was their guy.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom is, in essence, kind of an amplified, superpowered version of Dr. Christian Troy, a man whose ego and ambition just completely supersede morality.
And while the Fantastic Four films themselves, let's be honest, often receive pretty mixed reviews,
Yeah, that's fair.
his portrayal still resonated strongly with the audience, didn't it? It landed him a Teen Choice Award nomination for Choice Movie Villain in 2007.
It did. He was also recognized for his action work, getting a nomination for Choice Movie Rumble, sharing that nod with Chris Evans, who played the Human Torch.
So he was mastering that dual appeal, dramatic complexity for the critics with Nip Tuck, charismatic menace for the fans with Fantastic Four.
Exactly. And it's important to place him in the cultural context of that specific moment, the mid-2000s. Our sources mention this really fascinating contextual detail around the height of his fame, with Nip Tuck doing incredibly well and Dr. Doom making him a movie villain. Julian McMahon's name was actively circulating in discussions to replace Pierce Brosnan as James Bond.
Wow, really? James Bond.
Hmm.
That's remarkable. From the son of an Australian PM to a contender for arguably the most famous British spy role in cinema.
Isn't it remarkable?
Why do you think he was seriously considered for Bond, especially considering he was making his name playing these deeply immoral characters?
Well, I think it speaks volumes about his unique combination of qualities. James Bond requires sophistication, right? A tailored aesthetic, an inherent sense of danger, and international appeal. McMahon possessed all four. His Australian politically privileged background kind of gave him that natural air of tailoring and sophistication, while his professional history as Christian Troy and Dr. Doom supplied the necessary edge, that suggestion of darkness lurking just beneath the polished surface.
So he was dangerous, sophisticated, and internationally known.
Exactly. He could project power without being overtly crude, which is kind of the perfect Bond paradox, isn't it?
Yeah, that makes sense. That whole era truly cemented his status then. He wasn't just working, he was thriving across both film and television.
Definitely.
And we should probably briefly highlight the breadth of his filmography during this period too, just to show how in demand he was.
Good point. He starred in that psychological thriller Chasing Sleep back in 2000, alongside Jeff Daniels.
Right.
Then in 2007, he was in the supernatural thriller Premonition with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, big names.
And he joined that impressive ensemble cast of the action film Red in 2010, working with stars like Bruce Willis, Morgan Freeman, Helen Mirren.
My list.
He was a true Hollywood utility player during that time, capable of pivoting between a dark, cerebral character study like Chasing Sleep and a major studio thriller like Premonition. This entire period, really, from about 2003 to 2010, was his golden era. He fully leveraged the charisma and the intensity he'd honed in those earlier dual identity roles.
Okay, so as we move into the 2010s and beyond, the industry demands shifted a bit, and so did his career focus, it seems. We see him make a significant, though maybe brief, return to his roots in 2018.
Yeah, for the Australian comedy Swinging Safari, which was set way back in the 1970s.
It's pure nostalgia trip then.
Totally. It required all the period detail, including the infamous 1970s handlebar mustache he had to sport for the role.
Right?
But the physical transformation, or even the comedic tone of the film, that wasn't actually the biggest professional challenge he faced in returning to his home country for that project.
Oh, what was
That
that?
specific challenge, which he highlighted himself in the source material, it's incredibly telling about his whole journey.
Go on.
He noted that after decades of working in American television, training his ear and his mouth to sound distinctly American for professional success, he found it genuinely difficult to perform with an authentic Australian accent for the film.
Wow. That's more than just a simple anecdote, isn't it?
It's a powerful metaphor, I think, for his assimilation into the U.S. industry. His professional identity had been so thoroughly absorbed by Hollywood.
That the very linguistic marker of his birth country had become an effortful performance.
Exactly. He had successfully Americanized his acting persona so completely. It really underscores the depth of his commitment to his career abroad.
And the cast of Swinging Safari, it was a real who's who of Australian talent, wasn't it? Guy Pearce, Kylie Minogue, Radha Mitchell.
Absolutely. And this brought him into a particularly unique interaction. The source material mentions a specific, apparently improvised kiss scene where couples partner swapped during a party scene.
Okay.
And his kissing partner in that improvised moment was Kylie Minogue.
Kylie Minogue, who was his former sister-in-law.
Exactly. Due to his first very short marriage to her sister, Dani Minogue, years before.
To share an improvised, slightly scandalous kiss scene with your former sister-in-law on a movie set in your home country?
Wow. It kind of encapsulates the tightly interwoven and very public nature of Australian celebrity, doesn't it? Personal and professional lines just blurring completely.
It really does. Okay, so following this brief return home, he then transitioned into the maybe more stable, reliable world of American broadcast procedurals.
That's right. He took on the lead role of Jess LaCroix in the CBS crime drama FBI, Most Wanted, starting in 2020.
Which marked a pretty distinct career shift, didn't it?
I think so. He went from playing those morally gray, often narcissistic leads in edgy cable dramas.
Like Christian Troy.
Right. To embodying a more traditional, heroic, though still damaged federal agent leading an elite fugitive task force. It was a big commitment to a large franchise.
And he made guest appearances in the other FBI shows, too.
Yeah, and the parent series, FBI,
Okay.
and the spin-off FBI, International. It was a whole connected universe.
And the sources mention his specific connection to this character, Jess LaCroix. After years of chasing complexity, he apparently stated that when he received the script for FBI, Most Wanted, he had an aha moment. He knew immediately he had to play the character.
That aha moment is fascinating, isn't it? You have to ask why.
Yeah, what do you think it was?
Well, perhaps after 2 decades of playing roles that required immense internal darkness, maybe he was drawn to a character who was externally heroic, but still carried those internal scars. Jess LaCroix was a widowed father, burdened by responsibility and loss.
So it allowed him to maintain the depth and weight he was used to.
Maybe, but within a more traditionally heroic framework, it allowed him to explore the damaged man who was trying to do good, rather than the damaged man who just embraced chaos like Christian Troy often did.
It sounds like a potentially natural evolution for an actor looking for longevity in a major network procedural.
It could be seen that way. However, he ultimately chose to depart the series relatively early, midway through the 3rd season.
Right. His final episode was titled Shattered, airing in March 2022. The departure was noted to be for creative reasons, wanting to pursue other projects.
Yeah. And his final acting role, according to the sources, was a recurring role in the limited series The Residents. He played Stephen Roos for 6 episodes in 2025.
And there's an undeniably poignant symmetry here, isn't there? A moment of profound, completely unintended synchronicity.
There is. The show was subsequently canceled on the very same day that Julian McMahon passed away.
Wow. A final, closing professional curtain drawn at the exact same moment as his life concluded. That's heavy.
It really is.
So, as we look at the defining connections in his life outside of work, we see that Julian McMahon's personal sphere often overlapped with his professional one, which kind of reflects the high-profile nature of his family and, well, his wife's too. He was married 3 times.
That's right. His first marriage, and perhaps the one most culturally resonant, certainly in Australia and the UK, was to the singer and actress Dannii Minogue.
Sister of Kylie.
Sister of Kylie. They met, perhaps unsurprisingly, while working together on the set of Home and Away back in 1991. They got married in 1994.
But the union was incredibly short-lived, wasn't it? Dissolving just a year later in 1995.
Yeah, very brief. And the reason cited for that divorce, according to our source material, circles right back to that central conflict of his life, his political pedigree.
Really? How so?
Dannii Minogue apparently cited a negative relationship with his mother, Sonia McMahon, Lady McMahon, as a central issue right from the start of their relationship.
Wow. So the political dynasty reaching out and affecting his intimate life even then.
It's a powerful illustration, isn't it? Even while he was forging this new identity in the entertainment industry, seemingly far removed from Canberra, the formal, high society expectations and influence of the McMahon matriarch remained a defining and, in this case, ultimately destructive force in his marriage. The pressure was just pervasive.
The source material also notes, I think, that the marriage was fraught with separation, with Julian focused intensely on establishing his acting career over in the U.S.
Right. While Dannii was prioritizing her music career, mostly based in England at the time, they were both young, high-profile figures chasing global careers. And then you add the strain of his powerful family's judgment on top of it all.
That's a lot to handle.
A huge amount. Following the breakdown of that marriage, his second was to the U.S. star Brooke Burns, who was famous for her role on Baywatch.
Okay.
They married in 1999, divorced in 2001, also relatively short. But this union produced his only child, a daughter.
Right. And his third marriage.
His third and longest marriage was to Kelly Paniagua, whom he married in 2014.
Okay. Now, let's return to the complexity of his identity. That negotiation between Australia and America.
Yeah, it's key.
He resided in the United States, basically from the 1990s onward, built his entire career there, yet he maintained this truly dual status, didn't he?
He did. He retained his Australian citizenship while also becoming a naturalized citizen of the United States.
And this dual citizenship, it feels like more than just a legal formality. It was an emotional reality for him.
I think so. For decades, he had to perform, essentially, as an American actor, using the accent, living the Hollywood life, but his core identity seemed to remain deeply rooted back in Sydney.
And his own words really emphasize this profound, continuous connection to his roots, even after achieving, the ultimate American dream of Hollywood stardom.
He stated it quite beautifully, actually. He said, "I feel like I'm Australian on the inside and American on the outside or something. I would never want to leave it behind either. I love Australians. Australianisms, I love my part of being Australian. I love where I grew up and how I grew up. And, I wouldn't change it for the world."
That's a really powerful declaration, isn't it? Of cultural loyalty, emotional permanence. It suggests that those formative Sydney years, despite maybe their rigidity and conflict, they provided this unshakable foundation for the man who would eventually thrive in the, let's say, chaos of American drama.
It really speaks to the successful navigation of two very different cultural universes.
Yeah.
He managed to adapt perfectly to the professional demands of Hollywood while keeping that inner engine running on Australian sentiment. A fascinating balance.
Yeah, it really is. And finally, we do have to conclude with the factual details of his passing.
Yes, Julian McMahon died from lung metastasis, which was caused by head and neck cancer. He passed away in Clearwater, Florida on July 2nd, 2025, at the age of 56.
And his remains were subsequently cremated. So, when we look back at this remarkably varied, often intense career, the narrative seems pretty clear. Here was a man who grew up expecting one type of life, that formal world of Australian politics,
Right.
but who successfully transitioned himself into the completely different, aesthetic, performance-driven world of international celebrity. And he became famous not really by playing the straightforward hero,
No.
but by embodying the morally complex, the charismatic, and often the deeply damaged character.
And I think the defining theme here is his willingness, perhaps even his need to embrace the shade, the gray areas. He deliberately gravitated towards characters that were internally conflicted.
Like Cole Turner.
The demon trying to love and charmed, or the narcissistic surgeon battling his own emptiness in Nip Tuck.
Or Dr. Doom.
The ambitious, power-mad industrialist in Fantastic Four. This focus was perhaps the perfect counterpoint to the controlled, high-pressure, and maybe often two-dimensional public life he was born into. His art became the exploration of the complicated darkness his upbringing may not have really permitted him to express openly.
It's an incredibly potent irony, isn't it? The son of a prime minister becomes internationally renowned as an amoral plastic surgeon and one of Marvel's most notorious supervillains.
It really is. His career demonstrates just how far one can move from their origins while still, perhaps, carrying the internal tensions those origins created.
Which raises, I think, an important question for you, the listener, as you reflect on Julian McMahon's legacy.
Yeah. Since his greatest successes centered on embodying these morally ambiguous figures that audiences, let's face it, find so compelling, consider the unique power dynamics at play there.
Why are actors who possess that rare blend, that natural charm, combined with an inherent dramatic darkness, the capability to sell both the sophistication and the danger, why are they the ones we remember most vividly?
It's a testament, really, to his dramatic range that he could make us pity, despise, and root for the same character, often within the space of the same scene.
So we'd encourage you maybe to revisit some of his works outside of the major commercial hits, just to observe that mastery of dramatic range in different contexts.
Yeah, seek out the early, less-seen films like Chasing Sleep, maybe, or even his later procedural work in FBI, Most Wanted, just to truly appreciate the breadth of an actor who consistently chose the path of the complicated over the convenient.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the remarkable life and career of Julian McMahon.